Hi, I'm Larry Peabody, your professor of record for the course. Some 500 years have passed since Martin Luther rocked the church world by saying, quote, "All Christians are priests." Half a millennium is a long time, certainly time enough to have put his words into action. Yet today, even in Protestant churches, we still hardly practice what Luther preached. As Greg Ogden puts it in the New Reformation, the Reformation did not make a complete break from a hierarchical conception of ministry. Ogden says, unless we shift the priestly role from an elite core to the entire body of believers, the ministry cannot be returned to the people of God. A cracked foundation weakens and threatens a house. Cracks in the way we do church weaken and disable the body of Christ. This course takes aim at three of those cracks or divides: the clergy-laity divide, the sacred-secular divide, and the audience-performer divide. Week 1 will introduce our subject with an article arguing that transformational leadership in the 21st century needs to take its cues from the priesthood of all believers. You'll also watch a brief video that presents a history of priesthood over time. In week 2, you'll explore how the sacred-secular divide is one of the great hindrances to practicing all-believer priesthood in the local church. In a video interview during week 3, Nita Kochuga, a pastor with the Westview Bible Church in Quebec, Canada, will explain how one local church equips believer priests for various ministries and congregational meetings. But most ministry takes place in the scattered church. So in week 4, another pastor, Brian Doughton, who pastors Northwood Church in Maple Grove, Minnesota, will describe how his church employs faith stories in equipping believers to serve Christ in their workplaces, in their neighborhoods, and so on. Then, in week 5, Brian Anderson, pastor of the Bridge Church in Rancho Cordova, California, will explain how he helped his church to make the transition to an all-believer priesthood during their Sunday meetings. To get the greatest benefit from this certificate course, plan on recruiting 2 mature Christ followers to serve as your personal learning community. Each of them should be willing to read your written assignments and to provide you with feedback and encouragement. You'll be asked to read only 2 books during this course: Curing Sunday Spectatoritis, From Passivity to Participation in Church, and The Priesthood of All Believers in the 21st Century by Robert A. Muthiah. In addition to reading these books, plan on spending about 2 hours a week in the Moodle classroom watching videos, listening to audio recordings, reading articles, and so on. Schedule another hour or so for writing your 2-page journal entry each week. At the conclusion of the course, bundle your 2 book reports, 5 journal entries, and course project into a 3-chapter final paper. Submit this paper to your professor via the Dropbox provided in Moodle. Include in this final paper a statement verifying that you have read all the required reading books. I'm hoping that you'll find this course both motivating and full of practical ideas for putting into practice the truth about all believer priesthood that Martin Luther rediscovered 5 centuries ago. May God's Spirit direct and empower you as you read, study each lesson, and ultimately apply what you will learn.